hello all. Little different setting here, but of course I am Vincent,
Raven.
and welcome to Midnite Movie Reviews. This is an on-the-spot review.
Yep. First reaction to Halloween Kills. As you can see, the beautiful movie theater right here
Yeah,
behind
we
us.
have just got out of the movies.
We. Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So go ahead and well, I guess let's just go ahead and start this thing. It's going to be a little different review. We're not going to have a lot of, the intercut clips and all that.
Yeah, this is going to be a rather short thing. We're just going to give a few initial thoughts. Try not to spoil anything for anybody that hasn't seen it yet. Just give our first thoughts, instant reactions, having just came out.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. What do you think?
I'm not going to lie. I hated this movie. I don't think it's the worst Halloween movie ever made.
No.
I think there are far worse ones than this,
I agree.
but again, that's not comparing it to much.
Also agree.
Yeah. I'm see. I've I think I've said this before in reviews. I'm really not a slasher fan. I really don't care a thing about slashers. I love the original Halloween because it doesn't feel just like just a blood crazy slasher. Like that's all you're worrying about is the kills. Oh, what kind of cool kills are we going to see? The first Halloween actually had. I mean, it's a genuinely scary movie.
And it started the slasher
Yeah,
subgenre, really. Slasher movies weren't really a thing at the time that it came out,
yeah,
and it kind of established that formula. But then, we've seen so much done with that since then.
yeah.
Um,
And I'm just not I was never really a fan on really any of them. And I mean, I love the original Friday the 13th. I actually really like the original Nightmare on Elm Street too.
mm-hmm.
After that, I don't care. I don't care about any of the rest. And that's kind of my feel on Halloween too. I love the original, and I'm not counting Halloween 3 because I absolutely love Halloween 3, but I
It's
don't,
not a slasher.
yeah, I don't consider it in the Halloween franchise really. But after that, I really don't care. And I also was not a huge fan of the 2018 Halloween. I thought it was the best sequel in the Michael Myers, story.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that's not saying much.
Right.
So, what's your initial thought?
Well, he and I are a little bit different in the sense that I do like slasher movies. I find them fun. I don't take them too seriously. And as far as the Halloween movies go, I'm honestly not a big fan of the franchise. I'm a big fan of the original movie, and I'm a big fan of Michael Myers, the character. And there's a few of the sequels that I kind of like. I can have fun with. Um, Going into this, I kept my expectations in check. I wasn't expecting much. I was so on the 2018 release. I like him. I thought it was probably the best of the sequel so far. Also, again, not saying much. I was expecting something similar out of this. Having watched the trailer and seen how much that it seemed like it gave away, you know, that kind of like dampened it for me a little bit in terms of like, okay, well, this is a slasher movie. I'm keeping low expectations here, but I want to see the kills. But then the trailer seems to be showing them all. So I don't know. I wasn't sure what to really expect, but I wasn't expecting a lot. But I thought to myself, okay, as long as it sort of feels like a Halloween movie and the kills are good and maybe creative, giving me something I haven't really seen before. As long as I get that, I can be satisfied with it. And for the most part, I pretty much feel like I got that. So I didn't hate the movie, but did I like it? Not really. I mean, it's another Halloween movie. There you
Yeah,
go. I mean, we're gonna try not to really spoil too much here, but there's not
there's
really a
really not
lot
much
to.
to
There's
spoil.
really not a
Yeah,
lot to spoil. I mean, everybody already knows there's another movie coming next year. Um, so Michael's not gonna die. So I mean, there you go.
yeah. I mean, I could say, I can give this movie a couple of good little things. There's one scene in there where Michael has just killed somebody. I don't remember. It was this couple,
Mm.
and he has essentially almost killed the wife, but he's kind of making her watch. Kills the husband, and he stabs him once.
Hmm.
Then he just picks up another knife, stabs him again.
That was a
Picks up
brutal
another
kill.
knife, stabs him again, and it's like I love that because that kind of brings back this notion that there's nothing going on up there.
Right.
Like he's just doing this to see, like, what does this do? Oh, well, I wonder what this does.
Yeah, like he's finding a knife that he likes. And for those of you that have maybe seen the movie already, you'll know what we're talking about.
Yeah, and because it's not like he's just trying to kill him more, so to say, but
Right.
he's just doing it for
Yeah.
no reason.
Yeah, I thought they did some good stuff here, and it really just it comes down to the kills. Story wise, I don't really like the direction that they chose to go in. They sort of um, go back to the original film and add things in there to justify the story that they're telling now. I don't really know how I feel about that, and that's something that I feel like is kind of a negative. I was going to ask you what you thought they improved on from the 2018 version going into this one. But something that I don't think they improved on is just reminding you too much that the original Halloween exists.
Yeah,
It's too much callback. It's a
it
bit too much
exists, and
fan
it's a much
service.
better movie.
Yeah, it's almost like it's just beating you over the head the entire time. Hey, do you remember Halloween? Do you remember that movie? 1978, baby. Go watch that. Like it's not new. It's not as new as I wanted it to be. Like again, with a movie like this, we've seen a million of these at this point. I wanted to see something a bit new, something I haven't seen before. As far as the kills, I was satisfied with that as far as that goes. But the story, I just didn't really care. Characters, I didn't really care very much.
Yeah, dialogue was atrocious.
Dialogue was bad. The dialogue was what it was for a slasher movie. I mean, it's not Tarantino dialogue, but
Yeah,
there's a couple lines in here that are really really cringy where I just kind of had to look away from the screen and go, ugh, didn't need to hear that.
yeah,
Um, the gotchas, and it's not trick or treat. Like it's not like Buster Rhymes and Halloween
yeah.
Resurrection. That's probably going to take the cake for like the worst Halloween dialogue of all time. It's nothing quite that bad, but
I don't know. I feel like that gotcha is almost just as big a sin. It's almost just as insulting.
yeah, it does come off as a bit insulting. It's not as bad in my opinion as the Buster Rhymes line, but it's you get what I'm saying. It's that level of things like characters saying things to Michael Myers in defiance, or trick or treat, or evil dies tonight, which is the big thing, and
Yeah.
they keep repeating that line a lot throughout the film.
I feel
And
like my face throughout half of this movie looked like that Robert Downey Jr. meme where he's rolling his eyes. Like that's how my eye was this half of this movie.
yeah, I feel like overall, like if you're maybe asking yourself whether or not you want to watch this, I think if you're a fan of the Halloween franchise and Michael Myers in particular, if you just want to see Michael Myers kill people, if you like slasher movies and you just want to have fun with it, I think you can like this. I think you'll like something like this. But if you're expecting, you know, a good story to be told, or anything new and interesting, it's just not really there. You could skip it if you're one of those people that's looking for that.
So speaking of sins against humanity, though, I'm gonna go ahead and spoil a little something right here.
There's warning.
Yeah, if you're as much against CGI abominations as I am, you better stay away from this. Bringing Donald
Yeah.
Pleasance back into this, no, like absolutely not. I hated it in Rogue One. Bringing back Carrie Fisher and Peter Cushing, I despised it. Doing it in this, like I think it's even worse.
Yeah, at first I wasn't even sure that that's what was going on
I'm
because
assuming that's what it was because
I
when it
think
shows that
so.
close up, you could tell his face wasn't right.
It looks a little computery and
Yeah.
stuff, but like at first when we seen Donald Pleasance, I thought, okay, is this like a scene? Is this from a scene that maybe was shot and never used, like
Yeah.
from something from a deleted
Like
scene?
in the last Bill and Ted movie, there's that scene of George Carlin but that was actually a deleted scene from
Right.
Bogus Journey.
Yeah. At first, I thought maybe that's what was going on. Because even in the 2018 version, there's dialogue of Loomis
Mm-hmm.
that's, recordings of his voice that they had him do at some point. I guess just didn't use.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe that was the same issue here, but there is a point where they're showing him kind of a lot, and you do get a close up of his face, and that's where it's like, oh, I think there's some CGI going on here, and this just took it to another level.
See, they tried to they really went overboard with fan service in this. Now,
Yeah.
one of the first scenes though, and again, kind of mentioned this movie. I'd say a good 30% of this movie takes place in 1978.
Yeah, quite a bit of it. The first 20 minutes
Yeah,
or
like
so,
the first
is that
20
overshooting
minutes.
it? 15 maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, it's all taking place right after the events of Halloween, the original.
Yeah.
But there was one shot that I actually really liked. Again, kind of a spoiler, but not really. So after it's showing how they caught Michael Myers in 1978, it shows him standing outside of his house, just standing there, kind of blank faced, and all these cops got their guns drawn on him. And it's recreating one of the first scenes from the original where he's a kid and he's just standing there dumbfounded, like, I don't know what I just did. I kind of liked that because it was like, okay, well, I guess once he got caught after killing all these people, he'd probably still be the same.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing really going on up there. So he'd be like, okay, what's going on now?
Yeah.
What did I do? But then 30 seconds later, they're recreating another scene from the original, and I had enough of it.
Yeah, I mean, like, to go back to that point that he was just mentioning, they do kind of try to give Michael Myers a little bit of a purpose in this movie that I was kind of okay with, like, because they make it clear that Laurie is not what Michael wants. It isn't about her.
Yeah.
He wants to just go home. He wants to go home and be home, and he's just killing everybody along the way, and killing anybody, I guess, that comes in his path in any way whatsoever. I mean, it's not like he's going to the hospital to try to get Laurie.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of the hospital too, this might be a spoiler, but it doesn't seem like we can get a version of a Halloween 2 without half of it taking place in a hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was kind of a letdown for me because again, it's starting to feel a little bit too much like
Jamie Lee Curtis can't leave the hospital in a Halloween sequel.
Yeah, like we're just mulching over the same thing again here. That was kind of my thought. Again, back to story wise, there's nothing really new or interesting here. I don't think.
Yeah,
and
she does not like Jamie Lee Curtis does nothing.
No, I assume they're saving it all for the next movie.
Okay.
But she's not very active in this at all. She spends most of it lying down.
And we have a lot of presence from people from the original movie. Now, no, some of them I've not checked. I want to say the majority of them are actually the original actors from the original.
I'm not even sure.
Because I know the nurse is the same from the original, and I think a few of the others are, except for the one who's playing Tommy, which is Anthony Michael Hall in this.
Yeah, I didn't even recognize Anthony Michael Hall. I think the most recent film that he had been in that I had watched was like maybe something from the 90s, like Edward Scissorhands or something. I don't know. I haven't seen that guy in a while, and I watched the entire movie. And I noticed his name in the opening credits. I'll say that I seen his name there, but then I just didn't think anything of it. Watched the entire movie, and then as soon as we're out here in the parking lot, it was like, oh, that was Anthony Michael Hall.
But like, I don't see why it was just randomly him to play this kid now, grown man now. But something I kind of have issue with, like, okay, it has him and the little girl who was being babysat that night too, and the Lonnie, who had all of 5 seconds of screen time when Loomis is telling him to get away from there, get off the steps of the Myers house.
Oh, I don't even remember that. I was starting to think this is just like a brand new made up character.
No, like he actually had movie. That 5 seconds of screen time. Wow. But my question is, okay, yeah, they're from Haddonfield. I can buy that they're still there. Yeah, they almost got murdered in this town, but yeah, sure, we'll stay here. Why not?
Yeah.
But the nurse, Loomis's nurse from the original, who gets ripped out of the car. why is she there? Like, she's not from Haddonfield. Like, what? She would have been a good bit older than these kids. Why would she be hanging around these people?
Yeah, I mean, and wherever that mental institution was in that
Mhm.
the original movie that he escaped from, I was under the impression that wasn't Haddonfield.
No,
That
that
was
was
somewhere
well far
that
away.
was
Yeah,
somewhere else. But yeah, I guess the nurse gets attacked and decides
I'm just
to
gonna go
go
settle down
live in the
that town.
town.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. And another question I have is, all right, so there's a scene in this movie. Again, this isn't a spoiler, but um,
They showed this in the trailer, so
okay, see, I never
yeah.
watched the trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shows all the silver shamrock masks. Well, my question is, does that mean Silver Shamrock exists as a company in this universe, or does Halloween 3 exist as a movie in this universe that they're remaking these masks?
Yeah.
And if either of those are the case, well, they're watching Halloween 1 in Halloween 3. So the
Yeah, which in this world and in this movie's universe, it's 40 years later from then.
yeah, like none of
So
this makes like the whole universe falls apart, and then
just don't think it. Just don't. You're thinking too much. Just
yeah.
don't think about
Well, and then also it's
it.
like they use the line at near the beginning. They said, "Well, Loomis says he shot Michael 6 times in the heart," and I'm thinking, okay, well that took place in Halloween 2,
Which
so
doesn't
yeah,
exist
don't
now,
exist in this universe. So
right?
again, it all goes out the window at this point.
Yeah.
I just, like I said, so many of those one-liners I can't forgive, and like I said, there were a few little things I actually liked. I thought
Right.
the acting of Michael was, just the portrayal of him. I thought that was pretty good still.
Yeah, and for a Halloween movie, that's one character you don't want to screw up is
Yeah,
Michael
at all.
Myers,
Yeah.
and they did pretty good
Mhm.
with that. I like he looks and feels and acts like Michael Myers.
I just didn't care about anybody else in this movie. I mean, the original, you care about Laurie Strode. You
Yeah.
want her to succeed. You really feel for this girl.
Hmm.
I didn't care about anybody in this movie.
That was one of the biggest problems I found with the 2018 version.
Mhm.
I think there's ideas about that 2018 version that on paper could work like as their own movie or something. Like the concept of a doctor who becomes obsessed with this patient and wants to understand what he gets out of killing to the point where he's driven to do it himself. On paper that's a unique idea, but that's to me like its own movie. And then the relationship with Lori to her daughter and then the granddaughter being there too, having all three generations. They cram so much into that movie that you can't care
Yeah.
about any of them really. And so for this movie, it's spoiler alert. So I'm glad the mother died.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that in this next movie, it's like one thing taken out of the way that we don't have to worry as much about. It can just be about the granddaughter. Maybe I can care about her a little bit more
Yeah.
without the mother character being in the way.
Yeah. I think, like I said, 3 generations of this family, it's just too much. Like,
Yeah,
you got to knock it down.
yeah, it's a little bit overkill. It's too much to have us care about all at once. Um, but there's not much to care about anyway, as far as the story goes in this thing. But kind of sounds like we're ripping it apart, and to a degree, we kind of are. But we're also saying there are some redeeming qualities. Probably, I'll say that especially more so like than him because he didn't like it as much as I did. Which I'm not saying I liked it that much. I just kept my expectations in check, and I pretty much got what I was expecting to get. It was kind of a fun time at the movies. Yeah, I'll give it that, but just don't go into it thinking too much.
And one more thing I'll say, I also thought that this was the most boring Halloween, though.
You found it boring?
Yes, like there were
I
there
don't know
were
if I could
points
say
in this
that.
I just could not keep my interest up. I was wanting to fall asleep.
There were parts. The parts that I found the most boring, I guess, were some of the stalking scenes when he's like looking around the house for someone.
See, I didn't mind that. It's just like in the hospital scenes.
The hospital
Yeah,
stuff,
I
yeah,
hated that.
yeah,
Like they're trying to shove too much emotion and heart into this. Like, okay, what way are you going? You trying to go for a bloody slasher here, or are you trying to make this thing emotional? Like you need to, or comedy. Take your
yeah.
pick.
That's something I'll say that they improved on with this
Yeah.
film a little bit. Is that something I really didn't like about the 2018 one was just so much misplaced comedy.
Mhm.
And we know who's writing some of these lines, Danny McBride.
Love Danny McBride, but
we do love Danny
yeah.
McBride, but like we don't necessarily want a lot of funny haha in our kill scenes in our horror movies. This movie, there is comedy in it, but I don't feel like it's as offensive or as in the way.
Yeah.
So I think that was an improvement. Is there anything else you think they improved on from the 2018 release?
No, because again, I didn't really care. I mean, that is an improvement, but I didn't really care for that 2018 one,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's just like, mm, I had a better time with that one.
Hmm.
So I guess to kind of wrap this up, don't want to make this too long. I gave the 2018, I think, like a 5.5 to a 6 out of 10.
That's about where I landed with it.
This one, I'm not gonna lie, probably a 2.5 to 3.
Wow, that low.
Yeah.
I think I'll give this a 5. Because I can see this being something like around Halloween time if I'm just in a mood to watch Michael Myers movies and I'm just like marathoning them or something. I wouldn't necessarily skip this one. I can see myself watching it again at some point in time. I think it's kind of fun. It's a fun slasher movie for me. I don't take it very seriously. I definitely don't think it's the worst one. I think Halloween Resurrection has that title. But yeah, and I think if that's just what you're expecting out of this, if you just want like a fun slasher movie, I think you can be satisfied with this and have a good time. Um, but if you're wanting like an interesting story and you want to care about characters and things like that, it's just this. I don't think this movie's gonna really do that for you.
Yeah. So yeah, again, 2.5 to 3. Yeah, I could, I guess, give it a 3 just on a little bit of merit. But I just didn't have a good time. I was pretty bored, and it just really did nothing for me. So again, yeah, of course, watch it. Like now, granted, I've not rewatched Halloween 2018 since then. I've just not had a desire to. I can almost promise you I'm not going to rewatch this one.
Maybe that's why I had a little bit of a better time because I rewatched the Halloween 2018 version like Wednesday,
Yeah.
and this is a Saturday now, so it was a little bit fresh in my mind. So I didn't have a hard time following anything. I mean, I had a good time with it. It was a fun time at the movies for me, but it's not gonna like resonate with me. I mean, we're about to like go out to eat, and it's not gonna be on my mind.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not like it's not something that's gonna stick with me.
It's not like when I watched Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in theaters, when that's all I could even think about for
Oh
days.
yeah, yeah.
So again, take this for what it is. Naturally, if you're a Halloween fan, yeah, go ahead and go see it. That way you can say you've seen them all.
Yeah.
But don't expect too much is all I can say.
Yeah. Not the worst one, but you already knew it wasn't going to be the best one. It's somewhere in the middle.
Okay. So again, no, this was kind of different. Maybe not quite as interesting since it didn't have any pretty pictures flashing up. But I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Midnite Movie Reviews. And stay tuned. We should be back here in a few weeks with something else in our regular location. Mm-hmm. So thank you all for watching. We'll see you all next time.
Later on.